Still rolling? Okay. Welcome to Hadlime Cove Cemetery, where we are at the final resting place of Dominick Dunne in Lyme, Connecticut. Dominick Dunne is buried in the small, very quiet cemetery. It took me about 2 minutes to find him, and his home is actually right down the road. So if you wondered why he's buried here, let's start at the beginning. Dominick Dunne was born into a very influential, wealthy family. His father was a doctor, and he served in the military briefly, came back, went to Williams College, and then he found his way into New York City, where he started, at the bottom as a stagehand. Interestingly enough, he did Howdy Doody. So, while he was a stagehand, he started going to these A-list parties. When I mean A-list, Judy Garland, Humphrey Bogart, David Niven, just a wide range of international stars, and they all loved Dominick Dunne. Dominick was a great personality. If you've seen him on TV, if you've seen him in interviews, you know that you're instantly drawn to him. He's just got that it factor. So Humphrey Bogart one day said to him, "Come to Hollywood. I got some work for you." He went to Hollywood, brought his family. They lived in Beverly Hills, and he slowly rose to vice president of 20th Century Pictures. Pretty impressive for such a mediocre rise from stagehand to VP. By then, the alcohol and the drugs and whatnot started to take a hold of him, and he produced a movie starring Liz Taylor that kind of flopped. And they all went to dinner after the premiere a couple days later, and he made a fat joke about Sue Mengers. Very disgusting, it was just absolutely taboo. You don't know who Sue Mengers is? Sue Mengers was the most powerful Hollywood agent, later to be studio executive in Hollywood in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. She had her hands in everything. This was published in the paper the very next day. What he said, his career that Monday was over. He was fired. He was removed from all his associations. Nobody would return his phone calls. His life was over in Hollywood. So what did he do? He packed his bags, drove a car as far as he could away from Hollywood, ended up in Oregon. And why Oregon? Because he got a flat tire, and he just rented a little cabin out in the middle of nowhere and started writing. And he wrote and he wrote and he wrote, and he came out 6-8 months later, and he handed some manuscripts off to publishers in New York. They really liked what he had, published a few things, got successful. Then he came out with the Two Mrs. Grenvilles, instant celebrity as a publisher and a writer, and he sold 2 million copies. And he reinvented himself, basically. So, shortly after that, he got that dreaded phone call that his daughter, Dominique Dunne, very young, you've seen her in a number of movies. She's buried at Pierce Brothers Memorial, always well visited, always flowered. She was strangled in her Hollywood driveway by John Sweeney. So Dominick Dunne flew out. She lasted 5 days. Her organs were donated, and she passed away. This devastated Dominick, as the whole family, but not as much as the trial. And to make a long story short, he went to the trial, he took notes, was absolutely outraged when John Sweeney only got 2+ years sentence for killing his daughter. Absolutely travesty of justice. And so Dominick wrote about it in Vanity Fair, and huge success, sadly, and so he started following very wealthy people, and he attended the trials and wrote about the trials for Vanity Fair of O.J. Simpson, Claus von Bulow, the Menendez brothers, Phil Spector, and on and on and on. He wrote about it in Vanity Fair. He came out with numerous best-selling books. You also probably saw him on TV. I think it was Power, Privilege, and Justice. Very successful TV program, and he had a great on-screen presence. He died at age 83 of bladder cancer, but during his last 20 years after his daughter's death, he paid detectives to find John Sweeney everywhere he went and made sure he got fired, made sure the new employers knew who he was. John Sweeney was on the run for 20 years, and he changed his name recently to John Mora. I believe that's correct. And his life is basically over. He may have got out of prison, but Dominic here made sure justice was done. To find his grave, you can walk around like I did, or you simply come into the front gates and you walk to the right. He's in the back row with the gray upright tomb. Dominick Dunne, father, writer, advocate for justice. Simple marker. Now, would you like to see his house? I know I would. So come follow me. Okay, we're at the home of Dominick Dunne. This is his Connecticut estate, right down the street from the cemetery, the Cove Cemetery we just visited. Come here and we'll take a quick look. We're staying off the private property. This almost looks exactly when Dominic lived here. Thank you for joining me. I am Scott Stanton, the original Tombstone tourist, and that was awesome. Have a great day. Bye.